Welcome back to the ZIZO Effect podcast. Season 2 is all about perspectives. We'll be exploring the minds of agents, managers, and executives from call centers to hear their unique insights and experiences. This season, we're uncovering the stories that shape their work and the valuable lessons they've learned. Today, we have Bryan Williams, an experienced call center agent who's here to share his journey and the insights he's gained along the way. It's an engaging conversation that you won't want to miss. Get ready, it's game time.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the ZIZO Effect podcast. I am Jimmy Shabbat, founder and CEO of ZIZO Technologies and also the host of the ZIZO Effect podcast.
I am Andrew J. Reimers, co-host of the ZIZO Effect podcast and director of customer success here at ZIZO Technologies.
Andrew, season 2. We're excited to be here. We've got a new format, and part of our format is we're going to have guests in studio as well, also as remote. And we are proud to have Bryan Williams.
Hello.
An agent at a call center and fortunate to be one of our customers for ZIZO Technologies. Bryan, welcome to the ZIZO Effect podcast.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Bryan, before we jump into the podcast here, why don't you tell us a little about yourself personally?
Yeah, absolutely. So originally I'm from Long Island, New York, and I went to Fredonia State for school. Moved up here about 8 years ago, so not exactly a Buffalo native, but I would say I'm definitely a Bills fan now.
Nice.
So I started working for collections in the call center probably about 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And what you guys started ZIZO when? Like
2020.
2020, yeah.
2020 is when we started.
So we've been baiting that for almost 4 years now.
4 years. Well, we released in 2021.
Right.
But
okay. So about 3 years that we've been working on it. So yeah, I'm a local musician here in Buffalo.
Nice.
And so I do that full time while also working full time for my job, obviously, that we'll be talking about on this podcast.
Hey, why don't you name drop some of your bands here? I've seen you.
Yeah, sure.
Being ingrained in the Buffalo music scene, I love what you do. You know I'm a fan.
Sure,
I've gone, I've walked many miles in the sun and shown up very sweaty just to come hear you sing.
I know. I always appreciate seeing you in the crowd. So there's a band called Ice Cream Social. That's kind of like what that's my little project that I write about. Then I also played in a band called Dead Wolf, and I also played in a band by the name of Stephen Babcock. It's his own solo project that we go on tour. I was actually just out of town for 3 days, so it's good to be back. Yeah, a busy man, full-time music, then also a full-time job. But
proud to have you on here. We're happy to have you here. And part of our season 2 format is, again, to get perspectives. From different levels within the call center agencies, at the agent level, at the mid-management level, and then at the executive level. And we're going to talk about a whole list of topics here today. Well, before we get into that, your career, you gave us a little bit about when you started in the call center. You went to Fredonia State. What did you major in Fredonia?
So I have a degree in business administration.
Okay.
And then I concentrated in the music industry. Then I also have a minor in music.
Nice.
So I did take a lot of those, standard business courses, macroeconomics,
Nice,
statistics.
Not just a beautiful head of hair up there, man.
No, yeah.
There's something inside, too.
There's a very expensive degree, that I'm still paying for.
I like the beard. I mean,
Thank
there's
you.
no grays in there yet.
Not yet.
I think I have like one patch right here.
Yeah. Any kids?
No kids. No.
Married?
Not married. I do have a lady. We do have 2 dogs.
Oh, adorable.
Yeah. I just actually got a puppy recently.
Wow.
He's 4 months.
What kind of
He's a purebred border collie.
Nice.
So he's wild. He's the smartest dog I've ever seen in my life.
I don't want to say just as much work as kids, but they are a lot of responsibility,
it's proving
especially
to be.
at that early age.
Yeah.
So into your career, when did you decide to get into the call center business?
Well, it's funny actually in tangent to being a musician. That's kind of the reason why, because I came here and I was kind of just working like mostly in hospitality.
Okay.
So I was serving and doing catering. And then I stopped for a while because I really wanted to challenge myself to be a full-time musician. So from that point, I kind of realized it wasn't really financially feasible. You know.
I think Andrew has a
Yeah, I mean, Andrew definitely can relate. So I had a friend who was working in another call center, and he actually was the manager of it at the old place across the street. And I knew I needed a full-time job. So that's kind of like what swung me into getting that and asking for the position. I knew nothing about it at all.
Okay.
You know, getting trained and everything. That was my first
And what year
experience
was
ever.
that?
2018
Okay.
is
So
when I
about
first
6 years?
started. Yeah.
And you've been working since 2018?
Yeah, actually, it's been pretty accommodating to,
So
you
your
know, being a
music career.
musician
Yeah.
as well. You know, as long as you kind of say what you need. Everybody I've worked for has been pretty accommodating for that.
It's so fun, you know, hearing your story and getting to know you because, you know, I like to joke. I mean, you are me 12
Yeah.
years ago. And,
I've kind of always thought that too.
I was working hard doing collections actually for Jimmy, and tax season in 2012, and those bonuses actually paid for my first record, which was incredible. And I was able to put out a full-length record without going into debt. And I just watch what you do and see what you do, man, and I admire it. You know, traveling, touring, gigging out every night, getting those residencies. Like, it is hard to make money in Buffalo playing music, but when you can find that job that is solid and people are willing to work with you, when you show up, you do your job well.
Absolutely.
It's amazing how they're willing to, you know, let you out a little bit early, you know, give you this day off, and it's great. I'm so glad to hear that you're, you know, successful doing it and see how successful.
I appreciate that. Yeah, like I said, the accommodation is a huge thing that I'm super appreciative for.
Yeah.
You know, like I think if you just kind of talk about your needs with the people you work for and do your job well, like you said, you know, you can kind of have the best of both worlds.
Well, musicians are, especially early on in your careers, you guys are grinders. Right?
Yeah, you gotta
work hard, and I think that work ethic translates into kind of the things you do, especially if it offers you an opportunity to pursue your career. So, you know, as on the other side of the equation as an executive, and, you know, having hired and managed an operation, you know, we, you know, at least within my organizations, definitely appreciate hard work.
Sure.
And, you know, we're willing to give a little bit more without compromising our policies. Today we're going to be talking about a host of topics. You know, one of the things that you were just talking about, kind of that work ethic, kind of leans itself into one of our topics, which is culture. You know, and back in my day when I was running an operation, I try to create a culture of accountability.
Sure.
And, you know, when you do some of our research, there's a study out there that reported that 94% of executives and 88% of employees believe a distinct corporate culture is important to the success of the business and what keeps people there. And I just want to kind of get your perspective in terms of, what do you think culture is? What does culture mean to you?
Well, there's a couple of different ideas about culture. You could be talking about food, for example, is culture. Within the workspace, I think that's expectation to incentive.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, like, if you do a good job, then you get things out of it.
Okay.
And then there's like a kind of like the aspect of like getting, again, about incentives. Like,
are you defining the culture that you feel that you guys have?
Yeah. So yeah,
yours?
I'm trying to define kind of like what we have in our office now. Like it's a.
We'll zoom out a little bit.
Okay.
Zoom out, and let's just try to define culture in general. Like, what does culture mean to you? Like, as a musician, let's start there.
Okay.
Because I think that, you know, from a passion standpoint, that's more meaningful. What sort of culture and feeling do you want from your crowd, from your concerts that you're throwing? Like, what do you want people to feel and react to?
Okay. Well, I definitely want people to be having a good time. I want them to be happy.
Okay.
I want them to be thinking, like, for themselves.
Okay.
You know, like, if you can make a room full of like drunk and high people think something,
Okay.
you're doing something right.
So they have to be high as well.
No,
You're saying to enjoy your
Jim,
music.
Like I said, I'm a big fan.
Jim Morrison said that.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess it's, you know, everybody should feel together.
Okay.
You know, music is one of those kind of like infinite languages that anybody can speak. So I think if you're really performing with your heart out, you will create that culture within the room, or like I guess you call like a vibe.
Okay.
You know, there's an energy And yeah, I guess everybody culturally should be happy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think even more to that point, especially when we talk about the Buffalo music scene.
Yeah.
I think that there's culture within the scene when you see bands supporting other bands, music. You
Yeah,
know how it is.
that's
It's
part
very,
of it too.
it's very incestual. Where they're,
Yeah.
you even mentioned, well, yeah, I'm in 3 bands, and I know the people I play with are in multiple bands, and I make sure I go support them in their other endeavors.
Yeah.
Along with that,
Everybody's
And-
playing with each other.
Exactly,
Yeah,
the culture even within the scene, and the reason I bring that up is because I'm, very ingrained in a sense in the culture at your call center,
Sure.
where you work.
Yeah.
And I know that a collections floor is a unique place. We've talked about that in our last season. Even the culture shock you had when you first got into the space.
You hear some shit.
You definitely hear some shit, but similarly to the Buffalo music scene, where support breeds more support. I see that in what you guys are doing, because you're willing to help each other, whether it's helping, second talk off, closing deals, answering calls
Sure.
and things. I don't want to describe the culture at the call center for you, but I see a noticeable difference when you have that same energy, and it just breeds more of that same energy.
Absolutely.
And I think, you guys do a really good job of that.
I think so too.
Let me ask the question. I mean, one of our questions that we want to try to find out is what aspects of your corporate culture do you find to be most positive? You just mentioned one, but from your perspective, what is the most positive aspect of the culture that you guys have cultivated?
I think the lack of micromanaging is a huge part of it. Giving us the responsibility and confidence, giving us the responsibility to do our jobs well, and our bosses to have the confidence in doing that job without, having to audit our files all the time. I mean, sometimes, it does happen. Like you'll see a dip in numbers or a dip in production. You got to find out, you got to zoom in, but like the truth is, like, having that freedom, I think, is a huge part of the culture of why we only have 9 collectors.
Okay.
And, we put up huge numbers.
Yeah.
And there's not much maintenance, I think, from the up top to have to get us to do that.
Yeah.
You
what do you think contributes to that? Why is that?
freedom.
Okay.
Definitely.
So just that self-motivation.
Yeah,
and
like you come in, you do your job, and you can leave.
Yeah.
You take an extra 5 minutes on a break, you're not going to be penalized.
Right.
Like that's definitely part of our culture there.
So some autonomy to,
Yeah.
again, as long as
Absolutely.
you're getting your work done,
Yeah.
we don't really care, and that's something that I do believe in as well, which is if you're getting your work done and what I need, what's expected of you,
Yeah.
if you do it in 2 hours or 5 hours or 8 hours, but even also on the other side, if it will take you 10 hours,
Sure.
there has to be a give and take on both
Yeah.
sides of that.
You don't want to take advantage of that.
Of course, yeah,
And
and
that's the
both
thing
sides,
too, where
absolutely.
you'll see that in collections specifically. Like there have been a lot of people in and out of our office, beside for the core people, that I've been there for the longest. Like I'm definitely one of the oldest veterans who's actually been through a lot of people in and out, the overturn, and you can kind of almost tell immediately when somebody's just not going to last. They just don't have that motivation to do their job well. They'll take complete advantage of that,
Right.
and they'll just sit there, or not make enough calls or whatever it is, but
So do you
they end
feel-
up leaving.
So I have a strong belief that people are an important part of the culture, and
Sure.
we try to cultivate the right people
Yes.
that have the same
Yeah.
core values and the same work ethic, because they're part of what would I call the pot of soup analogy, which I've shared before. They're an ingredient in that soup.
Sure.
You're an ingredient in your pot of soup, in
Mm-hmm.
your culture. What do you do to contribute to your culture?
Staying positive is a big one,
Okay.
because I think it can be a little rough making phone calls all day, and some days you have a lot of results, sometimes you turn no results, and that's a thing that's been talked about in meetings before, because some people who are expected to hit high numbers have a 0 day, and then they're just complaining publicly. So that's a big thing. It's going to get people down. It's going to get people to stop working as hard as they would, because the complaints.
Yep.
So that creates lack of motivation toward other people. It's like a cancer. It spreads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what, again, for the pot of soup analogy, it's like the soup goes bad, right?
Yeah,
Because it's not just that
exactly.
one person that's going bad. Everything starts to go bad. And,
Sure.
we used to put a heavy emphasis on energy flow.
Yeah.
And really even just the way you set up the desks so that the interactions are happening or not happening.
Yeah.
We used to do
That's definitely a thing we do every now and then, like seat changes. I won't do that
changes, yeah.
anymore. I'm happy where I sit. But
You've earned your seat.
no, yeah, like I'll just say no. But
In a positive way.
yeah, in a positive way, in a motivating positive way. But no, that is a thing too. Like especially if you see like somebody's kind of slacking, or maybe they're really good at their job, but they could use a couple pointers. You would put them next to a heavy hitter. Like not they're not going to teach you anything. It's literally just to listen, to see how they're overturning results. You know?
That strategy there is more kind of like I think of that Garfield poster that was in all of our grade school classes where they have the books taped to them and learning by osmosis. It's just absorbing what you're hearing and sensing around you and then applying some of those lessons to that. But some of the things that you mentioned kind of translates into leadership. And so I want to transition into a conversation. There's a saying that people don't quit companies, they quit leaders. And, there's different sorts of leadership styles. According to a forecast, 57% of employees quit their jobs because of their boss. Tell me, from your perspective, it sounds like you're one of the leaders on the floor. You may not be a boss. You might not be in an authoritative position. But what do you consider a good leader?
Again, accountability, kindness, the ability to have understanding, I think is really important because everybody has their own lives and things happen to you. You might be late one day, you might have to miss, Yeah, I think leading by example is a huge one. Like my boss, when I first started, he literally showed me what he used to do because he used to do literally that job before, he owned the center. And to sit there next to me and show me exactly what he did that gave him success is a great way, to motivate somebody, to sit there and be like, I literally have done this before. And now here is, just like here's a trick of the trade, things like that. So to be a leader is to be able to, look at one of your employees and see their strengths and work on their strengths and not comment on their weaknesses. Like a lot of micromanagement, I think, happens in these types of call centers and a lot of just jobs in general, where there's like one way to do something, which sure, like there probably is for whatever means you might like have, but the truth is like everybody works a little different, and that's something I definitely could point out in this office because we all have different like styles in the way that we talk to people and get our jobs done. And that's not micromanaged. So that's like really important to be able to work with your employees and again, see their strengths.
Getting back though to the leadership in the business world, and you, I love it. What you talked about is being willing to fail, but also what you mentioned earlier about being open to learning from other people. Can you talk about? I already kind of know who you're going to talk about, but we discussed it in the past. But who has influenced you even in the collections world and helped you get to where you are now and being one of the top, if not top person in the office?
Well, again, I mean, definitely my boss George.
Yeah.
He taught me a lot of really like good strategies. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's proofs in the pudding. He tells you exactly what it is. You start doing it, you see results.
Yeah.
So I'm going to relate that to coaching and training.
Yes.
I think that's an important
coaching and training
part
is important as a leader.
As a leader, yes. You have to take that. And it's a lot easier to do with smaller groups, right? And I think you guys benefit from that small group.
Then you can individually kind of cater to everybody's needs.
Correct. Yeah. And, you had talked about, I want to kind of take those people that came in and left. I think attrition, which is a topic we'll get into a little bit later, really people, we ask that question, what are some of your problems? And, they mention attrition. We're like, well, we don't really have an attrition problem. The people who have been here for a long time, which is the case with you guys. But the problem isn't with the veterans. It's with the new people.
Yeah.
And so what do you think is the difference in the leadership, or what is happening, in terms of the type of styles of leadership with the new people? Is it the individuals, or is the leadership changing between those new people coming in? What are your thoughts on leadership with some of the new people as opposed to veterans?
Yeah, no, that's an interesting question. So I believe it's because if you go into an office that's already kind of like, well-oiled machine, and everybody's doing their own thing, talking about not being micromanaged, and you're seeing all these people get results. What you'll see is the upper management is, again, they're not micromanaging. So the new people coming in, there's almost like an expectation of like, they should already know how to do these things. Like there's not like individual training when you get to this level of like the office that I work in.
Okay.
So I think
Are you
that's...
hiring veterans? People who have already done the job?
Well,
or
I guess assumingly so, yes. Because
Okay.
a lot of these people come in off recommendations from other people from the office. But you never really know like what their history is, or like, if they have like, problems, outside of the office, like...
Which is part of the culture, I think.
Absolutely. I've seen some wild personalities in this industry.
Yeah.
But I think that's a big thing to say. It's like this expectation of like, you should know how to do all this stuff. And then like they don't. And then you find out it's like, oh, like they're doing like, they're saying like really, really dumb stuff like that could get us in a lot of trouble because no one is telling them. It's like, no, don't say that.
Right.
So I'll definitely make it a point to either like tell, my superior, or just make a slight at them, like not a slight, sorry, like a comment of like, hey, like you shouldn't be saying that, like it get us in a lot of trouble, or whatever.
You had mentioned something, briefly there that, we don't know about their problems. And I think it's a really good transition to something that, is becoming, being brought to light a lot more. And it was an accepted part of the culture, in terms of, hey, there's some sort of alcohol addiction, drug addiction,
Yes.
gambling addiction, some sort of addiction that kind of leans into the mental health side of things. And I think we're becoming more conscious of mental health. And you work in a very stressful industry, especially when you're not just a call center, because it's redundant. The work is the same. It's repetitive each and every day. And you're a frontline worker, meaning you're talking directly to a consumer. They're not really happy to hear from you, are they? Most of the time,
no.
No. Yeah.
But if you're good at your job, they'll be thanking you at the end.
Thanking you,
Yeah.
exactly.
And that's my goal after every conversation.
The topic of mental health, is again coming to light more, and people are addressing it more. How does working in a call center affect your mental health? What do you?
Oh yeah.
What's the impact?
It can happen. Good and bad days happen. My mental health can actually affect my work. I think it's actually more that way.
Okay.
Like if I'm having a bad day, I won't be as focused. But it's not really the opposite, at least for me. Like I could definitely see how some people take their work, and then like they leave the door with it. Sorry, like go out the door with it.
Right.
I leave it. Like that's my job, and then I get to go play music after, and then I get all that out. So like that work balance is really important too. That I think a lot of people don't have. They don't have these important hobbies that they can do outside the job. They're just kind of like working, and they go home, and it's done. It's like, and I go back.
Yeah.
And like that can create, a very anxious person, like over a long amount of time.
If they're bringing their work stress home.
Yes.
Okay.
And then
if they're bringing their home stress.
Yeah.
to
If
work.
you create that cycle,
yeah.
yeah, then you have if you have a family, you got bills, mortgage, all this stuff. You're living to work.
It's compounding. Yeah.
Yeah. It can happen. You got to have that balance, I would say.
Yeah, it's important. And, you're lucky, and I can relate to it because my outlet, as our resident basket case here at ZIZO, mental health is very important to me, and mental health awareness is a huge issue for me. And I'm very proud of where I work here because, our leadership does everything to help me when I need it.
Sure.
So if I am waking up, because I love the way you put that it isn't necessarily your job that causes the mental health problems. For me and the things that I deal with, I never know who or what I'm going to be when I wake up in the morning.
No.
And then I have to do my job in spite of that.
Yeah, like you try to have a constant, right? But like
I
sometimes
try
it's just
to.
like you can't, and you just like, all right, I'm going to work. I have like all these problems, or you got in a fight with your girlfriend or something. It's like you still have to work.
You still have to
know?
work, and not everybody has that outlet
Yeah.
of music.
Yeah.
But Jimmy, you brought up a great point. Unfortunately, in the world we live in, and the way our country is shaped at the moment, it's very easy to, if you don't have a creative outlet, to dive into alcohol, dive into drugs, get into gambling, having those kind of vices to try to mask that sort of pain.
Let me add one more thing
Yeah.
to that. Dive into social media.
Oh.
And
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that is an
That's-
addiction that I think is being kind of like under the radar here.
Yeah, that's
But-
something I've been trying to do actually, like myself. It's like wake up and not look at my phone for at least like an hour to 2 hours. Like I try to go outside, get some sunlight in my face.
Yeah.
It's like the first thing you're exposing yourself to so much negativity.
Sure.
Because there's
Yeah.
like the world is kind of a really bad place right now. Like
Very divisive.
yeah, and you pull up social media, like you're automatically like tuning your brain to like negative energy.
Yeah.
So you got to have, talking about mental health. It's like you got to have that foundation for yourself, or at least be aware of it.
Do you feel there's a place at work or a responsibility to maybe incorporate some of the aspects of, hey, let's get out and get some sun.
Absolutely.
Let's stand up and do some exercises.
I do it 2 or 3 times a day.
But that's
at work.
you're doing it.
Sure.
Do you feel that the responsibility should be shouldered by the organization or by leadership?
I think that would be a good idea. I like you can't make people do that,
Right.
But I think to show that you're having like general thought about people's mental health is definitely a good form of leadership.
Yeah.
It's mental health, I think, does play a pretty major role in nutrition, right? And burnout.
Yeah.
And, it's
Definitely.
a topic that we're very conscious of, especially in frontline workers, where you're dealing with consumers. And, again, I think part of this social media society that we live in, everybody's got a camera and everybody feels like they're entitled and they deserve the best and they're going to put a camera in your face. I mean, you're on the phone, so it's not necessarily, but they may be recording you on their phone call as well and trying to trap you into some things. And, what do you feel, you've been in this for 6 years and that's a long time. That's a long tenure. And from my perspective, I feel that music is what helps keep you there.
Absolutely.
Because
They
allows
go
you to do your
in
music.
tangent, yeah. But that took me a long time to get the balance where I have right now.
Okay.
Right now is definitely I feel the most like in control of my life, and that's because I've worked hard enough, I think, to get that respect to ask for these things. Can I leave early so I can have 3 hours to change my brain to becoming like from a collector to a musician, rather than having to like rush out the door, have all my gear in the car, and go right to the gig.
So from stress to stress.
Yeah, and like I see that as a really important, it's a valuable thing for me. So I play better, so like it's still a job. I'm still
Yeah.
making money, it's all that.
Was there a time that didn't exist?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what was that like?
It was stressful. I mean, you
Okay.
still had to do it. And I think I didn't do it to the caliber that I am now because like it just wasn't possible.
Well, you've matured.
Yeah.
I think some experience.
Well, I'm saying as far as like how many gigs I now play.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
I'm doing.
So the opportunities.
like I'm now taking on 4 to 5 gigs a week while working full time.
Wow.
Yeah, and like then sometimes, like I said, I need to leave early, and my boss is like super cool about it. And like I'm so fortunate and like just grateful that like I just have somehow painted this picture for myself, and it's right now working.
So it reminds me, I don't know if you remember being in school and maybe you have a field trip later in the afternoon, or, I used to play street hockey. And
Sure.
if I knew I had a game after school, that day flew by, because I had, I don't know if you would call it hope or just something to look forward
Getting
to,
out.
to get out and
Yeah.
do something, and just
I
the
agree.
day flies by. And so you have that,
Mm-hmm.
and you've always had that, and I think this was a means to an end, so it
It
allowed
is.
you to do that. But there's a lot of people that don't,
Yeah.
right?
I
I
was
mean,
just talking about this with somebody the other day. Like, just how a lot of people don't have that outlet. And like, you know, they work and they go home, and it's like, damn, like, I get it, you know.
So what?
Like,
what
you know,
would
and
you?
there's nothing wrong with that per se. Like, some people just are happy with their lives, you know, whatever. Like, to each their own.
People who don't have your talents, right? The capability of being an artist.
Okay.
What advice would you give them? And that they can't do music.
Okay. I mean, there's a lot of things you could be doing. You know, if fitness could be one. You know, everybody can draw. Everybody can write in a journal. Everybody can take a second to meditate.
Take a hike.
Take a hike.
Literally, like not figuratively.
Go for a walk.
Go for a walk.
You know. Yeah.
Andrew, what are some of the things that
read a book?
Read a book. What's that?
Some of the things that you've done. I mean, in the past, go back to where you were at the call center.
Yeah.
What are some of the outlets? I know you've also had music. You guys have
Yeah, I did
lives,
have
yeah.
music. And the funny, and the cool thing about music is, of course you want to make money playing music. That's, not necessarily why people want to do it.
No,
You do it for attention and girls. That's why you do it. No. But even before I was making money and having a second career in music, I still had what you were talking about, like with street hockey, where even going home and practicing, or we had band practice, and I wasn't making any money doing that. In fact, I was losing money with all the alcohol we were buying, in order to get through practice. But it was fun and having that. But for now, for me, it's experiencing new things with my son, showing him the world, showing him the things that I used to love to do, getting his take on it, but also learning the music that he loves, and him and I sit down and play music together. And I don't, post it. It's all just for us. Writing, you brought up a good thing. Even when I'm not writing music, I still love writing and telling stories, and I
Journaling's
constantly
good
have a
for
million
you.
ideas. I consider myself, at this point, I'm in therapy full time. I mean, that's something that I take a lot of pride in. I have a lot of appointments doing that. But trying to just figure out a way to better myself in any aspect of my life, even by just 1%. So it can even be something as simple as, I'm not speaking from experience here, but working in a soup kitchen for a day. Or, getting a positive feeling and trying to switch that, the little flip the switch in my brain for mental health, where something I did recently, I wasn't feeling great, but I decided to go through my closet, get rid of all the clothes that I love to believe I'll be able to fit in again someday, but it ain't going to happen. And being able to donate that, and even something like that, knowing, trying to help other people and trying to be that example for my son, where, as much, I don't play music anymore. I like to give it to the younger guys now and let them, take the reins. But yeah, it really is taking pride in being a parent, being a husband, being a better son to my mom, developing those relationships, and just cherishing every minute that I have, because I'm very lucky. I love my job. I'm not saying that because Jimmy's sitting right here. I genuinely enjoy what I do, and I've said it before how much I believe in our platform. But riding a bike, taking a walk, all of those things help me in my mental health.
It's great to suggest or recommend all of these different things, but there's something I think that is a differentiator here, is when you have something planned, as opposed to, I have all of these options, and then you go home and you sit down on your couch and you open your phone and all of a sudden you're in that rabbit hole. But when you have something planned, hey, I am scheduling, I'm going to take a bike ride with my son. We're going to go take a walk with my wife.
That's definitely a good thing, even if you're not doing, like, for example, like playing gigs and stuff. Like, having some sort of schedule definitely is good for most people, I would say.
Yeah.
Giving them something to do besides,
Like, I'm addicted to the grind,
Yeah.
I always feel like I want to be doing something.
Yeah. And
I always feel very, like, out of place if I'm just, like,
you're sitting.
Just sitting, like, stagnant,
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you got to sit and just, like, be with your thoughts, right? But, I'm definitely addicted to the grind that way.
You have, Bryan, obviously a very strong idea of what keeps you positive and keeps your mental health, strong. What would you like to see from managers or leaders within, whether your call center or call centers anywhere, or businesses anywhere, for people to really focus on their employees' mental health?
I think, like, one-on-one check-ins would be a good one. Like, not, like, demanding information from your employees, but, like, just showing that you even care.
Yeah.
Because like you never know what someone's going through in their day, and just asking, like, just out of just like the kindness of your heart, like, how are you doing? I think would be like a great managerial technique, because most people feel like kind of insignificant when you're day in and day out, and like you're not really having like intellectual important conversations with your higher ups. And I think that's like a thing, like in my office, like that's a huge thing. Like I'm very close with George and Kelsey, and like we're able to talk about things even outside of work. So yeah, I would say definitely like one-on-one check-ins would be a great way to do it. And maybe just like, like making some sort of like memo post or something about mental health. But like, corporations do this already though. And I think a lot of the people who like see that, it's like, this is crap. Like you don't actually care about us.
Right. I mean,
but corporations do that.
Thing.
It's like to keep people from quitting and saying, we care about you.
Yeah.
Now here's your pizza. Thank you at the end of every month. It's like, but like, I think that one-on-one conversation, like actually like put some sort of human element to it from like a boss. Yeah. I think that goes a long way.
I really like that idea because it brings me back to something you mentioned earlier about people that might be having a bad day, and whether it's because they're just having no luck on the phones, or maybe they are struggling, maybe they're dealing with anxiety or depression.
Sure.
But the way they complain on the floor, and it spreads like a cancer, and it ruins the culture.
Yep.
But having a leader schedule those regular one-on-one meetings not only gives you something to potentially look forward to, but allows them to get everything off their chest while learning enough about them. And we talked about, potentially a lack of training or, opportunities in teaching people how to be leaders. Like you might discover who your next person is that you want to promote just from having those one-on-one interactions.
Yeah. And you obviously can't force this upon anybody because like not everybody feels comfortable talking about their feelings.
Right.
You know?
Right. Especially when
you can't demand like everyone's having one-on-one check-ins. Like that's going to blow up in your face for sure.
Mandatory.
But I think
tell me what's wrong.
Yeah, like
right now.
I think to offer that would go a long way for somebody who would feel compelled to use that service.
Yeah, and it's got to be genuine. So genuine.
It's got to be genuine. Yeah, you got to have genuine empathy. You got to have that human element as a boss. It's like, I'm not your boss right now. I'm a person caring about you, and like that goes a long way.
Yeah, we used to have an 80-20 rule where a lot of our management comes from the data, right? 80% of the story is told through data.
Sure.
And then, sometimes there's flags, right, that are raised like, hey, I don't know what's going on here, but Brian's had 0 productive days in a row. Okay, the other 20%, it is human. Go have a conversation. Don't just assume that they're just, check in. Hey, Brian, you've been consistent, but for some reason now, what's going on? Yeah. Exactly. Not, hey, what the hell are you doing? Like
9 times out of 10, something's probably going on.
100%. And that's what we've always found. And again, trying to, like you said, you can't force people to tell you things. No. You have to kind of just give them that opening. Hey, how's it going?
Sure.
And maybe, I don't know, how would you phrase that question? What's wrong? How are you doing? Like, what's the best way? If we have a manager that's listening now is not formally trained in, empathy or is not naturally empathetic, but not formally
human
trained
psychology.
Human psychology.
Yeah.
What questions is the best opening for them to use? How do you phrase that question?
I guess first, like setting the foundation and floor as, hey, I'm going to talk to you right now as a human. Okay. Like I'm not your boss right now. And then you check in with statistics. So you have that logic for the conversation of what you're talking about. And then you have the human conversation of like, so because of this, is something causing this? And if you're comfortable, I would be more than willing to try to help you get through that. That's what I would say would be a great way to do that.
I like that. And, actually, switching gears a little bit, however, I think it is related. I want to discuss one of our other topics, which is engagement and distractions in the workplace. Sure. Now, engagement is kind of a buzzword, especially around here at ZIZO, but in the people that we talk to, our customers and other companies that potentially are looking into using ZIZO, one of the things that they're concerned about is actual employee engagement. Okay. That people seem distracted. And there's actually a study that showed stated 21% of employees are engaged at work. 21%. Not a great figure. Not a great number by any means. But when it comes to engagement, and the reason I think they're related, because those conversations you just mentioned could definitely help with this, and I think you're in a very good position where you work. But when it comes to engagement with your work, I'd be curious to know what that means to you.
You know,
Can you do your job without being focused?
Yeah,
Okay.
I can. Absolutely.
Well, you can. I think you can go through the motions, right?
No, I can. It's
Yeah.
one of those things. It's like it's just clockwork going through your head. You know, you're like, I got like my like this, and you know, you're just typing and like you're still like looking at emails or something while I'm
Okay.
still on the phone.
Yeah.
Multitasking.
But engagement, yeah, definitely staying focused, wanting to do the best job every time consecutively, to see the results that you want.
Andrew, how would you define engagement? What do you consider to be engagement?
Well, as much as we don't want people taking their work home with them, I know that I'm very engaged with my job because whether I want to or not, I can't stop thinking of ideas and ways to improve things and ways to improve what I'm doing. It becomes a natural part of me. So for me, it's, my engagement is getting here early, doing my job to the best of my ability, and taking pride in my work, knowing that I'm engaged. I don't come here just because of the paycheck. Right. I come here because I believe in our company, in our product, and what we do. So, you said something earlier that I love because it didn't happen to me very often, but I can remember every instance that it did happen. When I was doing collections, and I would be ready to, we got the payment on file, and we were ready to hang up and end the call, and they would thank me.
Yes.
And that directly contributed to my engagement because all of a sudden I felt like I was making an actual difference. So
Definitely.
It's wanting to do better, not just for personal selfish reasons, but for the betterment of the company as a whole, because the company itself, through many different ways, lets me know that my role is important.
So would you define that as sense of purpose?
I think that's definitely a part of it.
Yeah, and then and I think also being able to see your results is really important too. Just to kind of like touch on what ZIZO does, it's like it keeps you engaged because you are keeping track of your productivity all day, and then all week, and then all month, and all year, and I think that's a big part too.
Yeah.
For you to literally be able to see how well you're doing,
Yeah, when we talk to prospects, and we get some people who look at it and say, "Hey, we see they love our interface, and they've gone through a product demo, and they say, well, we don't want this to be a distraction." And so I then will respond, "Well, let's talk about something else. Can you tell me what engagement means to you?" And I ask them the same question because, and to your point, it's just exactly the point I'm trying to make, is we're providing information. We're informing each and every individual in real time what's their expectation or what's expected from them, and then where they are relative to those expectations.
And then with a little bit of friendly competition.
Keeping
and
them,
that just kind of happens like subconsciously. You start seeing people do better than you. You want to do better.
Yeah.
And there's a number that statistically is right in front of you that you want to beat or you want to get to. I think that's valuable.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what distractions that currently exist in your work life.
Sometimes you just wake up on the wrong side of the bed. Yeah. And it's tough to like get in gear. But a cup of coffee always helps. I wouldn't say I have too many distractions because I try to maintain the balance of like coming into work and just immediately like get right on the phone.
Okay.
I don't like to waste time.
I consider you an outlier, so I'm going to rephrase this question because you have a really good kind of balance to you. Like I would consider, most people may consider like your second career in music as a potential distraction, but you use that as a motivator, right?
Absolutely.
Because it helps you do your music. Yeah. So let me rephrase it. What distractions do you see with other employees or other people in their work life?
Financial stresses, I think, definitely are one. Children, if you have a family.
Now, you guys, just quick aside here, which is another one of our topics, but I don't think it's related to you guys. You guys are not work from home. You guys are in office. Do you guys are fully in office, or do you guys have a hybrid?
There was a hybrid for COVID.
Okay.
When Well, actually, it was completely in the house for a while. But then, if you wanted to, you could go to the office because like nobody really was. So I was doing that every now and then.
Okay.
It's just like me and my other boss. So I was like, this is fine. And COVID scared the crap out of me though. So I never wanted to leave the house.
So you had that experience, and there's a difference. So talk to me about that difference between work from home and distractions, and then coming into the office.
Oh, absolutely. That was a big thing I noticed. Like, I don't like working from home for that reason. There's so many distractions. Like, you can get up and go lay on your couch whenever you want. You know, you can go up and go get food whenever you want.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even have to get dressed.
Yeah.
You can roll out of bed 5 minutes before you're supposed to clock in, work in your underwear. I don't know. It's just
We're just pros and cons, right? I mean, that's a great thing.
Some people would say, "What do you mean?" That's exactly what I want to do.
Right.
Productivity, though, I would say goes out the window.
Yeah. It's a mindset, right?
Yeah.
For me, at least,
Some people do better. There's a lot of stats out there talking about that. Like of how productivity increases when you don't have to go into the office. And I think that's also like personality type, like who you are and like what motivates you to work harder, more concise. For me, it's like I like the idea of like a structured day of like waking up, putting clothes on, getting in the car, going to work. I like that idea.
Yeah.
So if you had an option or opportunity for hybrid,
I would, yeah.
You would do both?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would definitely find times to like utilize, my breaks more often because like I have instruments in my house or something, write a song, learn a song or whatever. That could be useful in that way. Yeah, I like the hybrid. I think a lot of companies do that right now.
Yeah, and when you guys were hybrid, how did you guys stay connected? Like, when we talk about culture.
We use Microsoft Teams.
Okay.
So that's our basis of communication for anything work related.
Okay. Did you use it?
Yeah, still
Often?
do. Yeah, still do
Okay.
every day.
Yeah.
That's super helpful because you can't be like calling or texting people.
Right.
Obviously, if you need something like right away, you just you make a phone call.
What's an interesting dichotomy is, you had mentioned it, phones aren't allowed in a call center, especially in a collections.
Sure.
Right.
But you're home.
All right, so that's another thing too. Exactly, and like people get away with murder, and you'll see these huge gaps of no work. Like, what are they doing? Yeah, they're just like they're screwing around on their phone more than likely.
Yeah,
and there's nobody.
So would you agree? There's more distractions at home than
Absolutely,
and it would take a pretty disciplined mind to remove those distractions. I remember way before COVID, a long time ago, when I was an IT consultant in my early 20s. And I didn't have an office. I didn't need an office. Most of my work I would do at my clients' businesses. But when I am home, my significant other thought that I was home, that I wasn't working.
Yeah.
And, just that little, like if you're in a flow, in a zone, and you're just working on something, and then there's that interruption and a question like, hey, can you take out the garbage? Like, I'm working.
Yeah, I know.
Like, well, it takes you 5 minutes. Like, no, I am working.
I understand I'm
work.
home, but like I'm actually like on the clock.
Yeah, I'm on it.
I run into that daily because sometimes out of necessity there's a hybrid schedule.
Sure.
So for me, I make it a point to come in early and get as much work done as I can while I'm at home, and then I have the luxury to be able to leave because I have a son. I can't leave him home alone. So whether it's being after school, and I was able to work it out with our leadership here. But I run into the same thing where I'm home and. Dad, look at this. Check this out. Listen to this. Watch this. I'm like, I'm not here, dude. Like, I'm here in case you're bleeding or dying. But like, other than that, leave me alone.
Last topic. I know we're up against the clock here.
Save the best for last, in my opinion.
Compensation and incentives.
Sure.
There's a study that shows that 51% of employees believe that they're underpaid.
That's it?
Was that half?
That's
50%?
More than half, 51%.
51%.
51% feel that they're underpaid, but
Okay.
some of that I think is related to lack of self-awareness.
Or who's asking the question.
Or who's asking the question, right?
I agree with that.
How do you feel about your current compensation structure? Not to throw George under the bus here or
No,
kind
you're
of put him
fine.
on the spotlight,
No,
but
I have nothing but great things to say about my compensation.
Okay.
There's a great bonus structure.
Okay.
I mean, that's half the reason I think why anybody stays in this industry.
Yeah, you don't get a lot of collectors that are in it for the love of the game.
No.
So let's define that for a lot of our audience here who may not understand, because bonuses are part of compensation. And I really want to define and create that differentiator, that line between compensation and incentives.
Okay.
So help us understand your bonus structure.
I have a base rate, and then I have a goal. And then once you exceed that goal, you get a percentage rate over that number.
Okay. So as an example, if you're making $20 an hour and then your goal is 20,000 cash or fee.
Yep.
Anything you get over that 20,000, let's just say you clear 25,000.
Yep.
You get a percentage of that.
You get 25% of that.
So it would be a $1,250 bonus check.
Correct.
On top of your base rate.
Yep. So you get 3 checks a month. So that's great.
Hold on. Is the third check the bonus check?
Yes.
Oh, I was gonna say,
That's what I'm saying.
That's nice. That's pretty.
I mean, it goes all together in the last one, but yeah, it's technically 3 checks.
Okay, so now let's talk about incentives.
Okay.
'Cause you guys are on a ZIZO platform.
Sure.
So how do you define an incentive?
For example, like with a bonus, you work harder, you clear a higher goal, you make a higher bonus check. That's right there, an incentive.
But you have an incentive budget, and let me see if I can rephrase the question here.
Okay.
With ZIZO, George allocates a certain budget per month to put into the rewards that is distributed through the ZIZO platform.
Oh, I love that reward store.
So
I use it all the time.
To earn
The Z-Bucks.
the Z-Bucks, right?
I do love the Z-Bucks.
Those are considered incentives.
Absolutely,
So,
yeah.
so although the term incentive could be used in different ways.
Sure.
One is, hey, this is incentivizing me to do more.
To make more money.
So it could.
Yes.
It's kind of like a motivation, right? A motivator.
And then you have the reward store. It's like the incentive to get like material possessions.
Correct. Yes.
Which I think is awesome.
So how
I
does
do
that?
like the concept of Z-Bucks. It's cool.
So from a motivation standpoint, you have your bonus,
Mm-hmm.
your commission, which is, hey, I'm going to work harder. I'm going to get more of my check.
It goes directly into your paycheck.
Goes into your paycheck. And then you have the Z-Bucks that
Mm-hmm.
you're earning on a multiple times on a daily basis, potentially. You have the opportunities at least.
Yep.
And then you can redeem those in the reward store for tangible goods.
Yep.
Right. What's the differentiator there?
You're saying like the motivation to make more money as opposed to make more Z-Bucks?
Correct.
Okay.
Is there a difference?
I would say they're kind of similar.
Okay.
I would say they're pretty similar, actually. It's just, I mean, obviously, like Z-Bucks are something you guys created to make incentive for employees so that they can feel like they're being rewarded while they work. Because, like, I only get paid twice a month, but I can get, like, anything from the reward store at any time, where, like, the incentive to win a competition to get more Z-Bucks, you know? So they're kind of similar. I would say.
So one of the, I'm trying to understand it from your perspective.
Yeah.
So this is more educational for me.
Sure.
Right? Because I do believe psychologically there's a difference between money that goes into your paycheck that gets direct deposited into your account versus the money that goes into your digital wallet that you can spend at any time and for anything in the reward
I would
store.
definitely agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that.
Okay.
What is the psychological difference?
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously Z-Bucks are like, not like, it is like real money, but it's not like, I can't put it.
It's a fake
I can't-
currency. It's a digital currency.
Yeah, it's a digital currency. I obviously can't put that in my wallet. So that's right there, the difference. The ability to take the Z-Buck and spend it on a tangible good, there's only like certain things you can buy, you know? But one thing I do love that you guys do offer is the ability to like customize your store based upon like, if I ask Andrew to like, hey, like he literally did this for me. Like he put a guitar case and I bought that with Z-Bucks. Like
Right.
I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, that's something we take a lot of pride in because, and it isn't just because I like you. You know, that's part of it.
But just to customize the store, I think is cool.
Everything that you see in the store has come directly from our users because, you know, I think something that we talk about a lot, Jimmy, as far as ZIZO goes, and that psychology and the mentality of it, and not to put words in your mouth, but we see from other people and the feedback we get is it's the ability to have sort of that guilt-free spend on something that when that money goes into your check, like that's going to go to bills and dog food and things where you might not take that money from your paycheck and buy that guitar case.
No, I wouldn't. You're right. I think that's a good point. It's like it's free money almost.
Yeah.
And you're getting that just by doing your job.
Right.
Like, as long as you do your job well, you make Z-Bucks. It's like,
Does having something in the reward store that you really want push you and drive you to work maybe just a little bit harder to get to that reward faster?
sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
You know, I would say like I like to keep my like digital wallet like never lower than 15,000 Z-Bucks.
Okay. So we have two personas.
Yeah.
We call them savers and spenders.
Okay.
And savers are the ones that I'm going to keep
Accruing
to get that big reward. And spenders are the ones that need that instant gratification.
I'm definitely a spender.
You're a spender.
Yeah,
okay.
I probably have spent the most Z-Bucks, I would say.
It's yeah. I mean, I won't get into
I looked
specific
at-
names. It's,
I've earned a lot of Z-Bucks,
Yeah.
but like I've bought so many Tango cards. It's like I mean, for me, it's like when I didn't have a car for a year. I mean, I literally used that Tango card for Uber rides to get to work. And it's like, so I thought that it was a great incentive of like, my job's paying for my transportation.
Wow.
yeah.
So like that's right there.
Was that cheaper than actually owning a car?
Yeah, I did the math.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It actually was. Like my car payments and insurance were so high. Yeah. And like I did the math, like it actually was cheaper
So
just to
beside-
Uber every day to work.
Besides Tango cards and the guitar case,
Yeah.
what are your favorite things things that you want to see in a reward store or you like seeing in a reward store?
Well, anything that, that makes you happy, like, again, like about the ability to customize the reward store is great. Whether it be things for, personal hygiene, or if you want to buy like an umbrella or a chair,
These are things that you don't like spending your own personal money out of your paycheck on.
Yeah, no, I don't. It's funny though.
Personal hygiene. I'm not going to shower until I get some Z-Bucks.
I mean,
I'm
hey, no,
joking.
I have great hygiene for the
I can
record.
tell. One of the purposes of the reward store is one size does not fit all. One type of prize cannot satisfy each individual.
Yeah.
And so, back in the days, we used to have contests and tournaments when I had my agency. We'd put TVs out there, we'd put headphones out there, any of the
classic
latest
TV.
gadgets.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a thing. Because that's when flat screens were first coming out.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody was transitioning.
Everybody wanted a 70
from
inch,
the old
yeah.
school console TVs to the flat screens, and they
Yeah.
kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Back in my day in collections, I won an iPad, which was phenomenal. And then the next month, I won another iPad. I just sold it.
You
I'm going to
sold
be
it,
honest.
Yeah, I know. That's what
I've
most
won,
people do.
I think, 3 televisions in my time in collections. I've sold them every time.
Every time, yeah. And so that's actually what we wanted to combat is, hey, instead of devaluing the reward, customize the reward for each individual.
I think that's a great idea.
Brian, it's been an absolute
Yeah,
pleasure.
thanks for having
You've
me.
brought in some really cool insights and perspective,
Sure.
and I think you're an amazing individual, from a personal standpoint, but I know George is very fortunate to have you as an employee as well, and I'm sure
Yeah.
your audience at your concerts love hearing you. And again, we're going to put all of his handles here for social media to make sure people can follow you on social, get you a little bit of plug here.
I know. I don't know. Are we outing you a little bit as far as your like day-to-day life, your daytime job?
I mean, I have no qualm telling people what I do.
Good. All right.
I mean-
That's good. Probably should have asked him that earlier.
No, I mean, there's got to be honest, right? Yeah.
2 more segments that we have here, very small segments. One, I want to give you an opportunity to ask us any questions. Is there anything that you would like to ask us? You don't have to, but if there's any questions that you have for us, please feel free to ask.
Why did you invent ZIZO?
So, out of necessity, the original purpose, and we've got a couple episodes. We'll make sure to send you the link, and you can hear the whole origin story.
Sure.
But initially, it was called the e-whiteboard. This was back in 2008, 2009.
Oh, I used that. I used the whiteboard.
The e-whiteboard, yeah, that was
Oh,
more
so
of
that
an-
was kind of like the first
iteration of ZIZO, and it
Full
was
circle.
more about accountability,
Sure.
right, and objectivity in terms of management. And it evolved because everybody thinks that ZIZO is just a gamification platform. It's really not. It's a communication tool. It's an accountability tool. It's a fairness and inclusivity tool. It's a way to get 100% participation within the incentive budget where everybody could earn. You can't point the finger anymore. So all of the failures, as you put it, or the lack of success, the pros and the cons I've learned from. The pros I've enhanced. The good and bad. I've tried to fix with this iteration of the platform from eWhiteboard to ZIZO, and we just rebranded it as ZIZO, and which, as you said, stands for zoom in, zoom out.
Yeah.
The ability to see things from the big picture down into the weeds
Yeah,
and
to
see
the
the
very
granular.
minute.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, we're going to transition to the last part of our episode here, which we always love to play a game. Last season, we played Name the Game.
Here we go.
Which we use here. I'm going to give you this buzzer. So you're going to have a buzzer for you. So what we're going to do here, the format is just trivia.
Coffee over
right?
here.
And you're going to go against Andrew here. It's a one-on-one. It's going to be fast format. So we're going to just go fast here. I'm going to ask a question. It's a trivia question. First person to buzz in gets an opportunity to answer. If you get it
Knock
wrong,
anything over here.
then the next person gets to answer as well. So, I don't know if we want, there's no penalties. We're just making the rules on the fly here, but there are no penalties for getting it wrong. We may have to adjust that because people will just
Sweating.
put it on there. So, let's do a -1. If you get it wrong, it's a -1.
Just don't flip the table.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I'm not that strong.
I'll ask the question. You buzz in if you know the answer.
All right.
You answer it. We'll keep score. So, first question. Which company's slogan is "You're in good hands"?
Allstate.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Next question. Who was the first televised president?
Eisenhower.
Nope. Roosevelt. Franklin D. Roosevelt. So we're going to play first person to 5. Originally, Amazon only sold what kind of product?
I even tried to give you that one.
I know.
Books.
That's correct. So
This
you got
guy
one.
knows trivia.
Who painted the Mona Lisa? Come on, guys.
Oh my God.
Buzz in. Let's go. Somebody's got to know. Wait, you both don't know?
He obviously knows.
Okay. Nobody gets it.
All right. No, I tried to give you one there.
Leonardo da Vinci.
Right. Da Vinci.
It's okay.
Who was the first person to win a Nobel Prize? This one's a tough one.
That is a tough one.
Marie Curie.
Okay.
Okay. What was the original purpose of the tiny pocket in jeans?
Guitar picks.
Wrong.
Change.
No. Little store pocket watches.
Oh.
All right.
This is
What does SPF in sunscreen stand for?
Sun protection. Pass.
Yeah, you were close. Sun protection factor.
Oh.
You were close. Chrome, Safari, Firefox, and Explorer are different types of what?
Internet browsers.
Web browsers, I'll take it.
Search engines.
They are not search engines. They are web browsers.
Oh.
There's a difference. In
I'm
what year was
learning.
the internet open to the public?
1989.
1993.
Wow.
Who is often credited with creating the world's first car?
Henry Ford?
Nope.
I was gonna say Ford.
Nope. He was the one that created the production line. It was Carl Benz who created the first car. Demolition of the Berlin Wall separated East and West Germany began in what year?
1989?
That's correct. Answer. Last question, guys.
Here we go.
Here we go. What is the last name of the business tycoon behind the number 5 perfume?
Chanel?
Chanel. Ding, 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 ding. Correct.
Wow.
And that's it. So our winner today is Andrew.
Hey!
Great job.
Hey, what do I win?
You don't win anything.
Damn
it. You get 1 point.
Where's
in
my
our
incentive?
But you know what? We are going to give a nice pair of ZIZO socks.
Oh, I love good
to
socks.
Bryan.
Thank you.
And for coming on our show, thank you so much
Yeah,
for
Ryan,
participating.
it's been a pleasure, man.
Been a pleasure.
Really glad to have you
I
here.
appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on the ZIZO Effect Podcast Season 2. Andrew, take it away.
It's game time.
It's game time.
Wow. It was really interesting to hear Bryan's perspective on the importance of workplace culture and the balance between work and personal life. I loved hearing how having a creative outlet like music can positively impact job performance. Bryan's story reminded all of us the value of finding harmony between our professional and our personal lives. We found this discussion incredibly insightful, and we hope you did too. Remember, we release episodes every other week, So stay tuned for more engaging conversations and insights. Get ready, it's game time.